Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Peter Redding here with Tuesdays with Peter, and that'd be me. So I see Kay has joined us and Vivek has joined us, at least on the Zoom. And for those of you that might be on YouTube right now live, welcome. Today we're going to continue our series on Positively Brilliant. That is this little book that I did, I don't know, back in 2008 is when I wrote it, and 2009 is when I published it. And let me just get my PowerPoint up here. And see if that's gonna, oh, I love it when a plan comes together. So this is week 4, and this is talking about plans almost come together here. All right, so let's get the PowerPoint. We go into section 2 now. The book, if you remember, is broken up into like 5 different sections. Section 2 is about creating the human nature. And so the quote that I use here is from John Wooden. John Wooden, for those of you that are older and are into college basketball, he was the basketball coach for the UCLA team back in the late 60s, early 70s. A profound philosopher, manager, leader, coach that developed young men. Was his, if you were to talk to him, I never did, but you know, the way he brought his quotes together was, I'm here to develop my young men. And I happen to be a basketball coach doing it. So the quote for today is, success is peace of mind, which is a direct result of self-satisfaction in knowing you did your best to become the best you are capable of becoming. So it's like this spiral effect of, are you being the best human being that you are supposed to be? And that's why I love this quote, of course, because this is what I do here at Tuesdays with Peter. Focus on the brilliance, the magnificence, the innate genius of my core self. So we'll continue the series today in terms of section 2. Section 2 will also talk about your creative human nature. We explore how our human nature assimilates beliefs and attitudes. In other words, we're not born with that. That is part of the physicality of coming into this planet, this earth, this three-dimensional space. Our human nature is also our vehicle of expression for our divine nature's innate values, innate life purpose, and innate gifts. In other words, they are endowed. They are, that's the inner core of my being that is now embodied with a physical form. And so my human nature is the vehicle for my divine nature's expression. Is that cool or what? We could probably talk about that for a day and a half workshop, just that one concept. Well, let me continue. We explore our innate values in sections 3, which is chapters 10, 11, 12, 13. We explore our innate life purpose in chapters 14, 15, 16, 17. And so those are weeks that will be coming up, okay? And our innate gifts, or natural gifts and talents is another way of saying this. We talk about those and explore those in chapters 18, 19, 20, and 21, okay? Now, regarding our beliefs and attitudes are acquired from and reinforced by our personal experiences and by our worldly influences. Now, another way of saying that, they're all from the external point of view. So I make a distinction in the book. There is innate, meaning I come with that. I'm prepackaged. I am endowed with, from my creator, values, purpose, gifts, natural gifts. I am influenced from the external world, my attitudes and beliefs. Let me put it more succinctly. When I was born, there was no bias that I came packaged with, that these people are inferior to me or higher than me. Any beliefs that I have around prejudices, around who's worthy, who's not worthy, all of that stuff is from the external world. Okay, comes from parenting, comes from culture, comes from mass media. These people are bad, these people are good. This concept is good, this concept is bad. Those beliefs are of the human nature. Okay. All of my beliefs and attitudes were formed and or acquired upon entering the human realm. My beliefs and attitudes are of this physical world and do not have their roots in my divine nature. They don't have their roots in divine nature. This is all quoted from my own book, right? So this is what I wrote back in 2009 and still believe every word of it today. My parents and schooling contributed to what I absorbed or adopted or even adapted to as my primary beliefs and attitudes. Nearly all of my early beliefs and attitudes are assimilated unconsciously. In other words, I didn't have the mind at 3 years old, 5 years old, even 15 years old to say, I'm not sure that applies to me, Dad, or teacher, or CBS Evening News, right? When I was young, these beliefs and attitudes certainly made sense within the context of what others told me how life is supposed to be lived. Okay, so I was born into an American middle class family that had high values for becoming educated. So that's the kind of the cocoon that I was born into, right? Now that I am mostly a conscious adult and mostly over the need to please others, I can examine my beliefs and attitudes to determine if they support the expression of my innate life purpose, my divine nature. Do these support my divine nature or not? And I am in a much more conscious position to be able to do that. When my beliefs and attitudes do support me, hip, hip, hooray, I celebrate them. When my beliefs and attitudes do not support me to fully express my innate, if you will, divine nature, which I again define as my life purpose, as a piece of that, then I have an opportunity to change them. I have an opportunity to change them. That in and of itself is kind of a new revelation for me back in, I'll say 20 years ago now, right? When I wrote this, probably 10 years ago. Let me continue here, and then we'll open it up for some questions and exploration. Can I change a belief I have had my whole life? Again, quoting out of the book. Absolutely. Absolutely. This revelation was a life-changing event for me when I was about 35 years old, when it dawned on me that I could change it. It wasn't hardwired. We used to call it hardwired. In other words, you can't change something that's hardwired. It's just, that's just the way it is. That's what I thought beliefs were for me when I was 35, 36, 37 years old, when I started coming into this age of consciousness, age of choice making. Because before that, I was just a human doing. Peter, you need to do this. Okay, I did that. All right, Peter, you need to do that. I did that. Peter, you need to do that. Yep, I did that. But when I started giving myself a sense of, wait a minute, I am exhausted. Literally, I was exhausted at 37 years old. Felt like I was in my 70s, like, done, spent, completed. I've got no more energy for anything type of thing. It's kind of like I needed that to come to an age of consciousness, new choice making. And so this was absolutely, wow, I can change a belief, really? Yeah. Yeah. Again, because it comes from a human external basis. It's not impregnated into my innate being. So that was like revolutionary for me. So principle 4 is you believe that when you are connected to and guided by your sense of the divine, you are infinitely resourceful. You are infinitely resourceful. So this is life-affirming belief number 1. Life-affirming belief. I'll read it again. This life-affirming belief, you believe that when you are connected to and guided by your sense of the divine, however you hold that, you are infinitely resourceful. That's a very strong belief. And again, one that you can change or morph or not believe in or whatever, but this is one of the things that at 35, 37 years old, it was like, what? Changed my life and continues to today. Story contributed is by Jennifer Sellers. She's not able to be with us today, so I'll read her story. So let me read her story because that's good. It gives again a good context of a concrete example, and then we'll open it up to questions and go into some inquiries here. Resolve to be thyself. This is not her story yet, but I'll get to the story in a second. Resolve to be thyself and know that he who finds himself loses his misery. I don't know who Matthew Arnold is, but I came across this again, like I said, back 12 years ago when I was writing a book, and it just spoke to me. When I am not being myself, because I don't know who I am by definition miserable. It's like that because I keep on trying to please other people. I keep on trying to be this, that, and the other, and it's just not working. There's no satiating that inner desire to be myself. So I love this quote: "Resolve to be thyself," and I interpret that as a core self or the higher self, if you will. And know that he who finds himself loses his misery. Yeah, and I think Matthew, again, I don't know the man, but I would guess that he's referring to that inner self, that core self, that authentic self that is there by your creator. Love that. Thank you, Matthew. So what Jennifer writes about is becoming spaciousness. Becoming spaciousness. And let me read this in her own words. On some level, I always knew I was a part of something much larger than myself. I remember walking in puddles after a rainstorm and seeing the sky and the clouds reflected in them. It felt like I was walking on the sky. I was thrilled and frightened and immersed in awe, in pure awe. As I grew older, the connection wasn't so much there. As long as things were going well in my life, it didn't much matter. But when they didn't, there was nothing for me to rely on, nothing for me to take refuge in other than my intellect and my abilities to solve problems. Because I had no connection to the vastness, to pure potentiality, to my higher self, I was filled with anxiety. And what's worse, I was hiding that fact from myself. Life was a problem to be solved. And while I was great at solving one problem after another, I hadn't a clue about how to solve life itself. It was hopeless. I was hopeless. And there was nothing I could do about any of it. I was very competent at what I did. I was sensitive and intuitive. I was caring and cared for. I was loving and loved. But I didn't have access to the beauty of my own life. Over time, I've been able to access the divine presence and the sparkling thusness of life. I am spaciousness. I inspire conscious awareness. My mission is to move all of us to act out of compassion for ourselves and others. When I first went to a therapist in my early 30s, I was surprised to receive test results that said I was anxious. By knowing that truth was the first step towards my now truth, that I am an extension of the divine, as we all are. I now feel more peace than anxiety, more excitement than fear, more love for myself than doubt. And when the anxiety, fear, and doubt visit, I eventually, not always right away, know to welcome them, learn from them, and allow them their say. They too are divine guidance. And then we have some inquiries. So that is the story Becoming Spaciousness by Jennifer Sellers. Let me go back to my main screen here. This little chapter is a great read, actually. Principle number 4. It's a reminder, frankly, because I haven't read this myself for a long time. And the concept of I am a divine being and everything else can be changed that doesn't come from the divine is like, thanks, I need that reminder today. It's one of the basic principles in the world of professional coaching is to support the client to come back to who they really are, to have raise the level of awareness of, okay, so is this something that you are at choice? I know that's a yes or no question. All of my students are going, Peter, that was a yes or no question. I got it. Yeah, okay. So better questions. Where are you at choice with whatever the topic is for the day? There's also a sense of the duality of being human. The duality in this case of there's things that are innate within Peter Redding as a divine expression in a human form, as I believe every human being is, all of my brothers and sisters globally. And then there's the human nature of, yeah, I can be swayed. I can be told what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And then I also have a free will of doing that or not doing it. So there's all these factors at play. And if I can remember that my human side of things, and especially my belief around this part of me is just sacred. It's just awesome. It's like I am humbled by my God putting this inside of me and letting me know this is the work I'm here to do. And so every now and then, I think that voice comes from the divine and says, Peter, are you still doing that? or not. And yeah, thank you, God. And sometimes I give myself permission to argue with them. Yeah, I know it's my work to do, but I'm exhausted today. Let me go do something else. And I have that latitude. Again, I think that's part of the divine programming. So I guess the first question, I'll go back to the origin of this particular principle in my life of I have the capacity as a human being to examine, be conscious of my operating beliefs, and choose to change those that no longer serve. Wow. So I guess my inquiry for those that are here in terms of the inner circle of Zoom is, do you even believe that? Do you have a belief around a belief? And that you can choose either a life affirm, and I make a point of making a life affirming belief as opposed to a life limiting belief. Some people will characterize that as a positive belief or a negative belief, and so I try to stay away from the positive and negative languaging, frankly. But life affirming and life limiting have really worked for me when it comes to the duality of, does this add to the life, the vibrancy, the compassion of life, or not, as the case may be. Okay, so a life affirming belief is the way I like to articulate it. So again, question, bottom line, do you have a belief around that you can change your belief? Let's start with that one. Would like to comment on that or anything else? Okay, I see that you raised your hand really quick.
Just ready, took off.
I can tell. The bit in the mouth and let me out of the gate.
This is one of those topics that's very synchronistic for me because yes, I do have a belief that I can change beliefs. And lately I've become aware of some beliefs that were unconscious. So, it's hard to change them if you're not conscious of it. But unearthing beliefs that are unconscious that I want to change has been a theme for me lately that has been kind of mind blowing. You realize beliefs you've been carrying your whole life that you didn't even realize. But then that consciousness is what makes it possible to grapple with, to change. And so yes, it is powerful to realize we can change our beliefs. A statement that I've carried with me for a while is that, beliefs are just thoughts we keep thinking, and sometimes thoughts a lot of people are thinking, if it's beliefs we've absorbed from our culture, but they're just thoughts we keep thinking. And that helps me free up to realize, okay, well, I can choose to focus in a different way and create a new thought pattern for myself. And that's what belief change is. It can be hard, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, so two really key things here. One is it's just a thought that and it's like group think. Mm-hmm. Like in a corporation or even a family unit or a country or culture, it's like, no, everybody knows that this is the way it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, I thought 4 years old, I said, okay, I guess everybody goes to university. I mean, my mom and dad talked to me about going to university when I was 4 years old. It's like, what the hell is that? I don't even like, I don't think I've even gone to school at that point. And when I got into school, it was like, definitely not, let me get out of here as soon as I possibly can. Mm-hmm. was my attitude. But groupthink, and I'm in the stream of consciousness or unconsciousness, as the case may be, and I go with the flow. It's just, get along to get along. And it's like, yeah. And so that's one of the factors that you bring in terms of what I like that, because I think that really is from mass consciousness, mass media. And the other one is then the consciousness of, even though that's what 99 out of 100 people believe on my street or my town or my little fiefdom, I am at choice to go along with that or not. I can question that. And your point of, we kind of have to be conscious in order to do that is pivotal. Otherwise it stays under the under the radar and the unconscious, and it's like an underground operating system that, like, I'm on my computer right now, I'm looking at my laptop here in front of me, and it's like it's doing all kinds of things. I have no concept of what it's doing.
Yeah.
I am unconscious to the little bits and bytes and electricity. It's just unconscious, plain and simple. So the same thing in terms of the human level. If I am unconscious to even question that particular belief, or know that I am operating from that unconsciously and have been for however long I've been alive,
yeah,
then I don't have a chance to examine it. It's like, yeah, no, that's just the way it is. Everybody, when I ever hear myself say, well, everybody knows that, ... then I know it's one of my own personal triggers. They're like, wait a minute, do I still believe that? Is that an operating belief that's been unconscious for 73 years now? And do I still does that still serve my divine nature? Now, I couldn't have even asked that question at 37 because I was unconscious, obtuse. I was a human doing and all that business. All right. Huge. And then the hard work starts for me. It's like, oh crap.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh man, do I really want to fight this fight? Do I really want to have the conversation with those that are around me that vote the way they do, or act the way they do, or live their life the way they do? Yeah. So then the courageousness comes in for me at that stage. Am I courageous enough to say it out loud? Am I courageous enough to do something about it in my own life first before I point a finger at a sibling or a neighbor or a colleague that I think is off base? Because that too is a belief. That my belief is better than your belief.
Yeah.
And so then there's a sense of self-mastery obviously comes into it, but also a sense of self-awareness and a sense of, do I take self-responsibilities, I guess, the word I'm looking for. The sense of self-responsibility of I'm the only one that can do that for me. And that's still something that doesn't necessarily come automatic for me. As much as I talk about and teach consciousness, awareness, coaching, spiritual divinity, all that. And so that's my opportunity to, bring that on. Maybe I need to do a Post-it note on my mirror in the morning and say, okay, so what part of this am I responsible for? What else would you add to that, that stream of consciousness in a moment, Kay?
The basic belief that my value is innate, that belief, that my value is just being the spiritual being that I am, that is inherent value, rather than the belief that my value is based on my looks as a woman. that mass belief that is so reinforced by media and everything, and I'm not even a big media person at all, but I've realized recently how much that belief has just been unconsciously operating on me my whole life. And I've challenged it periodically. I've become conscious of it at many different points, but I'm at a new point of awareness of, oh my gosh, that belief is still in there, um and I'm so sick of it, and it just has, and and I'm tempted, like you, to start thinking about my nieces and really wanting to help them step out of that cultural message that's so strong. And but then I come back to realizing, no, my work really is for me, just back to self responsibility for my own way of relating with myself, and that very just basic belief that, and then it comes down to, then, okay, what is, that whole network of beliefs, I would say, that it's connected to, of then that many, I know I'm not alone in this, but just that belief of, if your value is based on how you look, and then it comes down to that number on the scale, what do you weigh? Just that simple stuff. That I'm a very spiritually connected person. I have worked very hard on self-development for a very long time. And to realize at this age that crap, those beliefs are still in there and still affecting me and affecting so many people. I'm But back to me, I can only work on my own internal process, and I'm actively working to let that go and really shift that belief to my value is innate, as just being. Uh and so anyway, right now, that has really been up for me in lots of ways. I could talk on, and I won't. But so this is really great to, the chapter this week just happens to be right on this topic.
Bang on. Yeah, and it's the complexity of beliefs too that you're bringing into the play. It's like, yeah, okay, so at this, if you will, the superficial consciousness level, okay, I got it, right? I'm not who I'm looking at, right? My looks does not define me. Okay, okay, I get that intellectually. But then there's a cobweb of all kinds of other unconscious things that have been also worked in there in terms of, and it gets reinforced, actresses that are of a certain age don't get roles. Okay, so I hear that. It kind of makes conscious, yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But it reinforces all that underneath unconscious beliefs that get reinforced, and say, yeah, okay, and I can't fight that, right? Or maybe I can if I'm a director, or if I'm in the Bollywood business,
right?
How do we represent the whole population, et cetera, and then it gets into all kinds of other tangled things. But ultimately, the uber self-responsibility is, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
How can I unravel this? How can I detach from a strong belief that has been guiding me for X number of years? And then the next question for me that comes into is, so what is the new belief?
Yeah.
What's the life affirming belief as opposed to the life limiting belief that, I'm at retirement age, so my life is done, my contribution is done, I'm supposed to go golf, I'm supposed to live in Florida. Well, I do live in Florida, but I don't golf, so I'm not retired. But there's all kinds of things that are attached. People that oh, in Florida, you're retired. No, and then I have to, it's like, no. Anyhow, what's the life affirming belief that I want to adopt and say, I still have an amazing brain. I still have an amazing mind. I have an amazing passion for my life's work that I now have clearly defined and articulated. And how do I do that work? How do I do more of that work? Is the new life affirming beliefs that are driving me and unrooting some of the ones that are below that have been there for centuries, decades, generations in my culture, my family background, which was basically we work as hard as we possibly can and then we die. And don't expect to be thanked for it. That was so, there's still opportunities to fight with that or to be aware of that. Deepak Chopra has a quote that goes something like, every human being has a capacity to extend their life, their longevity by as many as 20 to 40 years, something like that, by choosing what you eat, what you think, and the work that you choose to do. It's something I'm making an awful version of that. But I believe that when I am grounded in my divine nature, my core life purpose, my core values, my natural gifts and talents, when I am grounded in those things, again, my belief is that I am adding literally to my lifespan. And from a snapshot of today, all right, so there's Peter on the screen, to my remembrance of Peter at 37. At 37, when I looked forward, I said, yeah, okay, so Peter looks something like this. But I was exhausted at 37. I was spent. I was done. I was awful physical shape. Nothing, medically wrong with me, but I felt like what I would expect that a 70, 80-year-old, 90-year-old man would feel like. And now I have a sense of the vibrancy of a 30-year-old. It's like, oh my God, the whole life is in front of me. There's so much to do. I'm excited about life. I'm excited about, reaching out. I have the capacity to do that. Let me at it. It's like the old song, put me back in, coach. I'm ready to play. So it's, for me, it's incredibly practical exercise to go through. Even though it's, I get the courageousness, I get the, oh my God, I'm going to be disowned by my parents. I'm going to be disowned by my tribe. I'm going to be disowned by my fellow females, males, etc. But my God, is it worth it? Well, thank you for stimulating all of that, Kay. And it sounds like, there's a sabbatical going on here. Charles is a frequent visitor. Love to get your thoughts on your beliefs about your beliefs and about everybody else's beliefs. And what do you believe about beliefs? And as soon as he can unmute himself or come back in, I'd love to hear from Charles. I think maybe his video's frozen. Vivek, I also see that you are present with us today. What's your beliefs around beliefs? What have you noticed?
Well, Coach, my first understanding is that there's a lot contained in us, multitudes in our deep consciousness. Holding on to a few beliefs takes us to a point, but it restricts a lot from coming up as well. So my beliefs are also my baggage, because they the right word to put that is they focus me in a particular way, which might be my core purpose, even that this is what I'm here to do. but on a larger realm, they're restrictive, because then I'm not open to what life wants me to do for it. So, because the priority, we need to have life decide the priority in that instant.
Mm.
And it might be calling my attention to something, and I might have a belief that does not allow me to attend to it, when actually nature needs that thing attended to. So I've tried to live, well, I've lived with my beliefs, and I found over time a lot of my beliefs have ceased to matter. So I'm freer, freer of myself, less aware of myself from the point of view of my own beliefs, and like, this is me, this is this is how I think, this is what I like to do, this is what I'm here to do. Which itself is very freeing, but then when beliefs fall away, you find that you're freer now to experience a wider gamut of things, which might be necessary in one's own, for one's own evolution or realization or self-realization. So if there is a belief, I find that it relates to the lower self, to my earthly self.
Yeah.
But for me to experience my divine self, I need to be minus a belief. I need to be minus thought. No filters,
Yep.
No filters. That's been, and it's been my experience so far.
That's awesome. I love the language that you put around it. Beliefs are baggage. They apply to my lower self, my base non-spiritual self. Not all of them are bad for me, but they definitely a lower vibration. And for me, it's also, there's a sense of it's that programming, it's that internal, well, internal meaning that I've internalized it, but it's that operating system that is limiting, using your word. Here's the fence lines of the belief. You're okay if you're between the fence line, but don't go over to the other side. It's dangerous over there. Those people are wrong. Those concepts are whatever. And so unexamined beliefs, again, I don't believe they're all incorrect or wrong, if you will, or not all life limiting. But if I'm not conscious of it, then I'm not aware of it, and therefore then I can't examine them. I can't choose to examine them and have it be something different. So it is like carrying old baggage. And if I'm trying to operate at a higher level, my divine level, my spiritual level, my life affirming level, my life purpose level, then it's kind of like dragging around ankle weights. It's like, I can't move as freely as I could if I can unshackle myself from an old belief system that frankly no longer serves my higher good, or the planet's higher good.
That's correct.
Yeah. So thank you.
And if we have if we sort of deeply resonate with one statement, which is be nothing and do nothing. Now, that doesn't mean be inactive or, just what it means is that don't adorn an identity. I'm a doctor, I'm a physician, I just do the right eye and this, that. Because then you are just limiting yourself to that and you're assuming an identity, whereas the spirit has no identity. So this is the mind, that assumes an identity. I am this. It's not in the, it precludes itself from stopping at I am. I am this is the attribute of the mind, which is the ego. And I did this. I did a good deed. So if somebody did a good deed, and that's like really the highest form of ego, that I, the human, took on this mantle and did perform, that the ego that I am did a deed. So then I'm not free. Versus that everything happens of its own. The spirit has no identity, it has no past, has no present. Therefore, everything is because of it. It is nothing, and it does nothing, everything happens of its own.
Yeah, I don't remember receiving Spirit's CV or resume. Yeah, I've created the universe. I created Earth in 7 days. I created a billion, a trillion life forms that all are self-sustaining. I've never read that in terms of, and again, it points out to the culture that I grew up in as a doing culture. What have you done for me lately? Right? Corporate, it's quarterly, it's probably weekly or daily nowadays with the speed of internet and connectivity. My day, it was by the quarter. What are your quarterly sales? What have you quarterly produced? What are your quarterly revenues? What are your quarterly this, that, or the other? All doing. And again, not all bad. That's part of the self-sustainingness of an organization or an organism. But it's not the be all and end all. It's not be anything, from my experience. So, Charles, I see that you have rejoined us. We're talking about believing. What are your beliefs around beliefs?
Well, I had a belief that I didn't have time to engage this morning because I'm preparing for a medical exam, but stirred me up. I did appreciate Kay's comments and what you read from Jennifer, and I took a screenshot of the life-affirming belief. And I'll come back to that. I created a little program, a simple formula for success that said that success is determined by the clarity of your vision, the definiteness of your purpose, and the appropriateness of your attitudes and actions, relatively appropriate. And after facilitating that for a while, I realized that the missing component was beliefs. If you didn't have a belief in alignment with any of the preceding, that wasn't going to work very well for you, especially if you hadn't gone through the CoreSELFtech process. So what stirred me up is when Vivek referred to belief from the lower nature. And that's when I decided I had to come in here, because I believe that that when I am connected to and guided by my sense of the divine, I am infinitely resourceful. I am in alignment with my true spiritual identity, with the divinity being expressed within me. So as I percolated on that a little bit, maybe for me, it's not about beliefs, and I don't know how this would be received. I don't think I've ever said this. For me, it's more about the realization than a belief. Some things I have experienced so deeply, so richly, they're no longer belief. There are realization of wisdom, maybe just for me, but that's what I have to say about that, says Forrest Gump.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And having a belief doesn't mean that I act according to it, by the way.
Oh, no.
That's another whole level of conversation of, yeah, are my actions, am I living that belief? Am I incorporating that belief? Or it's like, no, I know it, but yeah, I'm not ready to do it yet.
I don't remember who the speaker was who said that he taught about this, the importance of belief and how so many of them were deeply ingrained in childhood. And he said he had a bunch of astrophysicists arguing with him about that in some big presentation. He says, I'll prove it to you. The moon is made of. And the whole audience just groaned because, of course, cheese came to their minds, right?
There you go. Group think. Yeah, the astronauts messed that one up. Actually, there's no cheese up here. Okay. Thank you, Charles. I love your frivolity. I love your insightfulness. I love your consciousness and awareness. And thank you for being a regular. I love it.
Love Tuesdays with Peter and with Kay and with Vivek and Tello.
Tuesdays with Peter. We've got a couple minutes left here. I see Arshna has also joined us. If she would like to care to chime in or not, that's totally up your prerogative. And if not, I'm going to see if I can go back to this and see. I've got a couple of inquiries here. So at the end of each chapter, I have a couple of inquiries that people can think about or write about or journal about or contemplate their navel about. Let me just read the three of them off, see which ones we've covered, maybe something that we haven't covered yet. Do the beliefs about your connection with your divine source support you to live your most positively brilliant self? If so, celebrate. Woohoo. Yep. Yee-hee. And if not, what are you ready to change that belief into? A new belief. Number two is, what belief about your divine source would bring on infinite resourceful into your life? So is there a belief that could enhance that sense of resourcefulness, as opposed to, oh, I can't do that, or I can't do that as a woman, I can't do that as an elder, I can't do that as an American, I can't do that as a Republican, I can't do that as a Democrat, I can't do that as and on and on and on and on. Again, putting the shackles of old beliefs that I've adapted or adopted into to, get along with my tribe, however you define that. And is it time to break the shackle? The last one, who are the people around you who support your belief in an infinitely resourceful divine? Or are people just saying, please ignore that. That's not important. It's important to what you do and how you show up and how you look, right? Much more important to get your mascara on correctly than it is to pray, meditate, be quiet, be in a place of solitude, be a place of deep spiritual connection with, again, your spiritual beliefs. I am not a missionary here trying to convert anybody to any particular spiritual tradition. Just that, again, this is my belief, and I'll claim it, that every human being was created by a creator that was divine enough to endow a life purpose inside of you that is fulfilled by all the different parts of your life, not just one job. Core values in terms of how you need to authentically show up in order to accomplish those purposes of life, and gives you a toolkit of, here's your natural gifts. Now, some people are more humorous than others. Some people are more analytic than others. Some people are more social than others, and so on and so forth. But there's a core set of natural gifts and talents, God-given gifts and talents, that support me to do the work that I'm here to do in terms of my life purpose. Yeah. And so who are the people that I can talk to about this? as opposed to if I bring this up with some people, I know that Auntie May is going to poo-poo this and say, what the heck are you talking about? Here's who you were brought up to be. Now be that. And then you will be successful. You will be accepted into our tribe, our family, as being a good human being, being a good little girl, being a good little boy, being a good little blank, right? So those are some of the inquiries I'm going to leave you with, and you can contemplate those over the course of the next week. And I see a thing here from Charles saying that Kate Kim commented on, oops, I lost it. Hold on here. Let me get the chat box up here.
Well, I can speak it. It's just like
I did do that for me, Charles.
I
Please.
have people in Kay mentioned something about nieces, and I have people in my life that don't have the understanding of divine source, and I love them dearly. And my fourth question is, I took a photograph and listened to your three, is, are there appropriate ways to plant seeds along the path of others? Of course, like we could give them a copy of your book, especially once the new edition is out, just to help facilitate their own self-discovery, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a worthy question. And my answer to that is always, I'm an example of what I believe, I guess, is that rather than, I used to tell people as a codependent, it was my job to save them. I don't believe that anymore. It's a belief that I've let go of. It's been very rejuvenating for me personally. Because I believe now that they have their life lessons and they're going to learn them or not learn them when they are ready to learn them. Now, it doesn't mean that I have to ignore them. It doesn't mean that I don't have compassion for them. It doesn't mean that I don't interact with them. It just means that the way I interact with my siblings and my world is much different than it would have been, at midlife. So yeah, the resources are abound. Just asking an inquiry like a coach would. And one of my favorite ones, by the way, and I'll keep bringing it back, does this belief continue to serve you?
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times I've asked that question of my clients. Does this belief continue to serve you? And if they say yes, then I don't challenge it. It's for them to decide, not for me to dictate. Okay. So how would you apply that belief to your current dilemma, your current issue, your current understanding of, what you want to do with your entrepreneurial startup, with your new relationship with your girlfriend, whatever it might be? Does that belief continue to serve you? And when they say yes, hallelujah. If they say no, then again, the next question from a coaching standpoint is, what belief would support you better or serve you better? And it's their inquiry, their exploration. So that's some of my immediate answers to that inquiry from you, Charles, of how do you support your loved ones? How do you support your immediate environment to contemplate new ways, a new level of consciousness? And then take your Velcro fingers, your sticky fingers off of them having to do it now. This is like a two-part answer. All right, we're going to move to closing off. Let me see if I can get that situated. Next week, oh, what's this? No, I don't need that one. Here we go. Next week, principle number 5 is you believe that when this again around the world of beliefs. What's an operation in terms of that simulated belief? You believe that when you bring your innate gifts to your innate life purpose, as you honor your innate values, your way of being, you are living your positively brilliant self. So this is kind of like a little roadmap My experience earlier in life when I didn't know my beliefs, I didn't even question my beliefs. It was just I am a product of my environment, right? And anyhow, but in terms of knowing my life purpose, again, that happened in my late 30s. Finding out what my natural gifts and talents were as opposed to the ones that I was schooled in or had been practicing for 20 years that brought no pleasure, no innate sense of accomplishment. It's just I could do that really well. I was competent. In other words, I had like 10,000 hours of practicing at something, but it wasn't necessarily my innate gift. So I make a big deal about innate gifts as opposed to learned or practiced talents or skills. And bringing it and being available to be a positively brilliant self. Because if I'm trying to live somebody else's life through their guidelines, their beliefs, the things that I have to learn, the things that I have to do, how I have to be and show up, then I will never achieve fulfillment, personal, positively brilliant self feeling, because I am trying to be somebody else than who I was created to be. And so we'll talk about the beliefs around that and where am I in terms of that consciousness, that practice. So come back next week and spend another Tuesday with Peter. Thank you all for showing up. I love you dearly. And for those of you that didn't go through daylight savings time, this happens an hour earlier now in a country like India that doesn't do daylight savings times. So you can remember to set your clocks back to Eastern time, 10 o'clock, and hope to see you next week. God bless. Namaste. Be safe, everybody.
Namaste. Thank you, Peter.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being yourself. Thanks for being your positively brilliant self.
Thank you.